The last 2 weeks have seen a raft of sanctions imposed in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But just what moves are being made to prevent evasion? Welcome to the Daily Forkast, March 11th, 2022. I'm Megha Chaddah of Forkast, covering all things blockchain. In the United States, 9 Republican senators have taken aim at China's digital yuan, introducing a bill warning that it could empower Russia to evade financial sanctions. We'll take a look at the details plus a whole lot more coming up. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world.
Join thousands of NFT traders who already start their day on CryptoSlam.
And today is all about sanctions, the ways and means of preventing evasion, and how access to cash can be ensured for innocent users. First up, blockchain analytics firm Chainalysis has announced the launch of 2 free crypto sanctions screening tools. The first is already available, an on-chain Oracle-designed one for smart contracts that confirms whether a certain wallet address has been sanctioned, while an application programming interface or API that performs the same function but for public web interfaces will be available next month. Chainalysis says that it hopes the tools will help cryptocurrency wallet owners in staying compliant with the growing list of global sanctions imposed on Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. Chainalysis also says it believes it will be difficult for the Russian government or financial elite to use crypto at scale without getting detected. Meanwhile, China's ECNY has been targeted in a bill introduced by 9 US senators. The bill highlights concerns over the possibility of the digital yuan being used to bypass financial sanctions on Russia, as well as allowing China to collect users' personal data. Forkast's Timmy Shen takes a look at what the bill aims to achieve.
Republican Senators Marsha Blackburn and Bill Cassidy were among the 9 who introduced the Say No to the Silk Road Act, hoping to set new rules and guidelines for the digital yuan. The act would require the State Department to issue a warning over use of the digital yuan and for a report to be prepared on the privacy implications associated with the network collecting data on U.S. citizens. One of the key concerns the senators raise is whether use of the digital yuan could allow countries like Russia to bypass financial systems like SWIFT. However, Emin Summit of Bitmain told Forkast that while China may propose deploying the ECNY for settling transactions on both sides of the border, it cannot serve as a substitute for the SWIFT system. And fintech consultant Richard Turin told us the senators failed to acknowledge the key fact that no central bank digital currency relies on the SWIFT network, not just China's. He warns that the senators are premature in their efforts to block the ECNY, as no attempts have been made so far to use it to avoid sanctions. Turin also says it's hard to see what meaningful impact the bill will have, as the ECNY is still under trial, and the most likely international users of the digital currency will be within China's Belt and Road Initiative, or members of the RCEP trade agreement between Asia-Pacific nations rather than the US. The bill's introduction follows hot on the heels of President Biden's executive order instructing the government to study a digital dollar, which states that the US needs to maintain technological leadership in the space. For Forkast, I'm Timmy Shan, Taipei, Taiwan.
As the Russia-Ukraine conflict rages on, hundreds of thousands of people find themselves caught up in the financial crossfire of sanctions and service suspensions. But could a disintermediated financial system have ensured that people had access to their money? Let's get in the insights from Adrian Brink of Anoma, a protocol that enables trading of any kind of digital assets among any number of parties with full zero-knowledge privacy. Good to see you again, Adrian.
Glad to be back.
Adrian, countless ordinary Russians are finding that they can't access their money after sanctions kicked in. Intermediaries like MasterCard, Amex, and Visa have also suspended Russian banks from their networks. This raises questions about financial sovereignty and having custody of one's own money.
I think this is surprising to a lot of people, but it really shouldn't. In the end, we are still in a fractional reserve banking system. Our financial payment infrastructure is mostly relying on 3 large companies at this point. Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and actually to some extent Apple and Google, because they have Apple Pay and Google Pay, which also stopped working, right? You've seen the videos in the Russian metro where people can't pay anymore for their tickets because Apple Pay decided to shut down the infrastructure for it. By the way, this is not only true in Russia, this is also true in Ukraine, because sanctions against the eastern parts of Ukraine were applied relatively indiscriminately, and the Ukrainian government has also frozen bank accounts within Ukraine. So pretty much on both sides, you just have a lot of collateral damage where people can't get to what they assumed were their own funds, their money, their retirement savings. And yeah, this is like a humongous problem, and I think a lot of people weren't aware of this because we've never seen this done at such a scale, right? Like, we've done this a little bit in Iran, or the West has done this a little bit in Iran, but really never like a blanket ban on like 180 million people. And I think slowly people are realizing the power of crypto and cryptocurrencies and distributed systems to really take your money out of the control of what is arguably like a small group of people.
Well, that's going to be my next question, really. A lot of Russian tourists who are overseas, they were caught unawares by the war. They're finding themselves cut off. They haven't been able to make ATM withdrawals or use their credit cards to pay for groceries or day-to-day expenses. So you think that the current crypto systems and the technology we have is enough to fill the hole that's been left by fiat currency getting blocked?
Absolutely. I think we are still missing some amount of work on the stablecoin space because the current stablecoins are sort of dodgy, and most people don't really want to, like, Bitcoin isn't a great means of payment because of the fluctuations, right? So like the best means of payment is relatively stable. It could be like an SDR, special drawing right from the IMF, or something that like is relatively stable across the world. The US dollar was historically this. The big thing is actually we did a back of the envelope calculation yesterday, and I think it comes to Visa, MasterCard, and American Express process something like, I think 200 or 300,000 transactions a second at peak capacity. Honestly, this is something we could probably set up as a distributed network tomorrow with like $40 million in hardware requirements. Like, it's not a lot. Like, the existing tech is there. We don't need like fancy sharding. We don't need all these like very fancy distributed systems. Like, they're very cool, but they are not required in order to like rebuild the financial system in a decentralized fashion as of today.
Well, you raise a very interesting point that this could be kicked off and set up on a very short notice. And I want to talk exactly about this, the impact on crypto projects that are in the works at the moment. How do you see the war and its fallout really affecting these projects? Has it brought attention to some features or maybe some drawbacks that were not really thought of in the ordinary times?
I think censorship resistance becomes paramount, right? Like, you want to be seizure resistant against whether this is a Russian living abroad or Ukrainian living abroad, because everyone that held money in Ukrainian and Russian banks pretty much stopped holding money. Like, it was like, now it's like, hopefully at some point they reopen and give me some money back. I think on the wider scale, what we're going to see though is that we're going to head towards a much more fractured world in the real world. As in, no sane country is ever going to like allow Visa and MasterCard to run the local financial payment infrastructure, because they could be shut down in an instance if Apple or Visa doesn't like it anymore, right? So I think we're going to see this heavy fracturing of the world in a couple of blocks with independent financial systems, which is actually kind of how crypto is going to be designed as well, which is like things are interoperable with each other, but they can fail independently. I think actually it's a pretty good design. The problem is the existing financial system isn't set up for this, so it's going to be very inconvenient for one. But yeah, I think this really highlighted the problems with the existing financial infrastructure. That it's controlled by very few people, that it's very easy to target, that you very easily get caught in sort of a wide sweeping net. Like, none of these sanctions actually target towards like specific individuals. They have lots of collateral damage.
Thanks so much, Adrian. Hopefully we'd see some important tools develop that will help us create a better financial structure going ahead. Thank you as always.
Thank you very much.
And finally, it's almost the weekend, so here's something for the music fans. Popular electronic music festival Tomorrowland is partnering with cryptocurrency exchange FTX Europe. The partnership aims to bring blockchain and Web3 applications such as NFTs for art, music, ticketing, as well as crypto payments and metaverse events. The music festival's winter edition is set to begin next week, and it will include an NFT hunting activity. The partnership is the newest addition in the growing list of entertainment companies venturing into blockchain technology. Hong Kong-based Animoca Brands is ahead of the game, partnering with K-pop agency Cube last month to develop a metaverse joint venture. While in January, Warner Music Group announced plans to create a music-themed world in Animoca's subsidiary, the Sandbox's metaverse. You can find all those stories and more at Forkast.News. And that's the Daily Forkast, bringing you the latest blockchain news from Monday to Friday from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit Forkast.News. I'm Megha Chaddah. Until next time.